Oh, it's working. All right. Hello. I think we're on. Fingers crossed. We'll never quite know. We're kind of winging it. So happy Friday afternoon. I just wanted to jump on really quickly. We're going to make this fast because it is a beautiful Friday afternoon and it's quitting time right at 5 p.m. But I wanted to jump on with my current beach glass writer in residence, Rachel Reynolds, who's been with me this week. Um, we're actually set up, we're both here in my place. Like we're in separate places because it makes it easier for Zoom. So Rachel is upstairs in her writing area, and I'm downstairs, but we are both here together, and we've had a wonderful week together. So I just wanted to have a really quick, fun chat about writing. And so Rachel has been here this week, and she's just an amazing guest to start off kick off my summer with. Rachel is a freelance writer. She's a former journalist, and she's an aspiring novelist working on her first novel. So I thought it would be really fun just to really quickly talk about something that we've talked about this week and we were discussing yesterday a bit, and that is, as a trained journalist, and I have that background as well, I have a degree in journalism. How do you switch into a different art form like fiction writing? What benefit does your journalism background give you, and how does it hold you back? Because I know I have some answers to this. There's some pros and some cons having that training, and I know that that's something that you deal with too. Is kind of, you know, it can be a hindrance, it can be a help. So what do you find is the case with that?
Well, I totally agree with your assessment of that, Tammy. I know we were talking about it. We had a great conversation, as part of Beach Glass. I think it was yesterday or the day before. And yeah, so I think there are great assets and benefits from having been a former journalist and getting a journalism training. And I would characterize those as one, tremendous attention to detail. So, very much an observer of the people around me, activities, conversations, um, environment. And I think all of those are wonderful and really helpful in the form that I'm working in now, which is novel writing, fiction. So I think I can add a lot to scene,
Yeah.
descriptions, that sort of thing. So that's the positive. Also, I think as a journalist, you're good at research. So if you need some data, stats, historical information, then that part comes easy. Where I found that I struggled, and I think really a block that I had to get past as a trained journalist was one, I felt like I had to make it perfect on first draft because as a newspaper journalist, daily newspaper journalist with a deadline each day, you don't get the chance to do second, third revisions. Like you have to nail it the first time. And so what I found with novel writing is if I didn't think it was quite perfect, that paragraph, I would want to fix it before I'd move on. And the problem with that is it takes forever to get a first draft done because, it's not 1,000 word
Yeah.
story or 750 words. We're talking thousands and thousands of words. So, yeah, you and I talked about that, about just get it down, get the first draft down. Doesn't have to be perfect. Chapter transitions don't necessarily have to be there. Get the story. And so that's been like unlearning for me. And so
Right.
the concept of a second draft or a third draft on the one hand feels a little scary, like I don't really know how to do this. But at the same time, it's a little bit freeing, like, oh, that could be fun. That could be like play in a second
Yeah.
draft, adding
Yeah.
things. And no, I don't have to get it perfect on a first draft because there's time. There's time. My deadline is not at 5 o'clock today. So there's time tomorrow, next week,
Yeah.
month. So that's something I learned from you. And I'm really trying to practice it, get my head around it. But yeah,
Or
that's
get your head out of it, right?
yeah,
Get
exactly.
your head
Add
out of it
up.
and just let it be
Exactly.
more sort of, or give yourself permission to be messy and to just write something you don't know where it's going. So like I find, with our journalism background, it's like who, what, why, where, when, right? And you want in
Yes.
the lead, you got to answer certain questions and everything's factual. And like, as you just said beautifully, it's a great foundation, but with fiction writing and being inspired and sort of letting a story come through you, you almost have to let go of all of that. It's a very
You really
weird
do.
feeling, right?
It definitely is. And the other thing I love that you touched on was, in journalism, particularly newspapers, when the form is very short, you have to put all your best information right at the top.
Yeah.
First the lead, first paragraph. You don't hold anything back in the story, like an inverted pyramid. Writing fiction, I don't want it to the reader all on the first page. There's what do you give them? What do you hold back? What's the pacing? Also different, very different.
Yeah.
Fun, but it got to let go of some of that old training to be able to work in this new genre. And it's fun.
Yeah.
Also, I'm so glad I have a coach and a teacher in you, because there are times I wouldn't know what to do. And I love that we can talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it it can be daunting to, sort of step into that unknown. And we were talking about, the first draft feeling like, oh, I have to have this story filed by the end of the day. It's not like
Mhm.
that at all, right? It just like
Right.
slowing your pace way down and realizing that this is going to take quite a while. You're sort of in it for the marathon, you're not the sprinter anymore. And then also, I think we talked about, I feel like I've just recently, and with my last novel that I finished last year, discovered the joy, and I never thought I'd say that, of revisions. Like
Mm.
I
Okay.
sort of just dreaded that process. And I thought, well, I also am pretty much one of those get it right. Not necessarily the first time. I don't mind rewriting some, but I'm not somebody who wants to write 20 drafts. And I also
Right.
sort of have this sense of myself like I shouldn't have to. I should be good enough to, I've got enough experience, enough background with
Right.
writing. Like I shouldn't have to go back and rework things and mess on the page. Chaos on the page makes me anxious.
Yeah.
And letting go of that and seeing revisions as a fun process, like you said, in a place where it's like that pressure of filling the blank page is gone. You have a
Right.
structure, and that piece of me, I found like, oh, it can relax. And now I get to go in, it's almost like a painter, I imagine, get to go in and like do some shading, or I see where something's missing. I get to dive in deeper. And also sitting with it allows things to bubble up, like the
Uh,
real meaning. Sometimes it's like I thought it was
yeah.
about this, and now I sit with it for a while, or I leave it and I come back to it and I discover what I was really trying to say. Like my subconscious was trying to say something, and it took me a while to get around to it. So I think just like, slowing down and
Mm.
trusting that there is something deeper, and that, it doesn't mean you're not a good writer if you can't finish it in a certain amount of time, or if you can't churn out a certain amount of words, like we think in
Yeah.
terms of word count often when we're doing
Mhm.
freelance writing. And it doesn't have to be about that. You could spend a morning and come up with a paragraph, but it captures this emotion that you just thought was so, like this elusive butterfly. And I think those
Yeah.
are the moments that are, really make it satisfying.
Yeah, and I think you hit on that, is just to relax into the process as opposed to trying to force the process. And something I thought of as you were talking is, I know as a journalist, when I sat down to write, I knew what the story was. I had to
Yeah.
know what the story was by the time I started writing. And that's something else I've had to get used to in working in fiction. And that is, when I sit down, I might know what the scene is that I'm writing, but I don't necessarily know the whole story. I don't necessarily know the entire narrative arc. And I have to be able to sit and write anyway with that level of ambiguity, because it's the writing process itself, as we've talked about,
Yeah.
where the story reveals itself. So that's something else that's different for me. And that is, I don't have to know the whole story to sit down and start writing. The story will reveal itself, but that's
Yeah.
very different than what I'm used to as a journalist.
Right. Right. Well, all right, we were going to keep this brief so people could go have their happy hours or be out in the sunshine. And we're going to go out and sit on the beach tonight and have a little picnic on the beach with a friend. So we'll kind of sign off. But before we do, what are you feeling excited about with your sort of writing journey? Like, what are you looking forward to delving into?
Well, as you know, I'm continuing to work on my first novel. And
Mm-hmm.
each time I talk to you about it, and especially when I come to beach class, I just feel so invigorated, like, this is the life I've always wanted, the writing life. And just to relax and enjoy it. So that's some of what I'm working on. I also love the special guests that you brought this week, other published writers to talk to, brainstorm with. So I really felt invigorated and encouraged by that, and that's some of what I feel like I'm taking home with me.
Well, that's
A lot of
great.
food for thought and to think about. Yeah, yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
the residency lasts even after I go home.
And we should say you'll be back. You're coming back
Yes, I
next month.
will.
Yeah, and
August.
thank you for giving a shout out too, because I should mention Margaret, and I'm afraid I'm going to mispronounce her last name. Margaret Giometti, I think that's right, is the author of Bravish, a novel, or I'm sorry, a memoir, who was here yesterday. We had a wonderful session with her and, talking about the heroine journey and just coming up with, helping with brainstorming ideas and things. And she'll be visiting on Monday. I'll be talking to her live. So I'm going to put out some information about that so everybody can tune in. Can't wait to do that. But yeah, we had a wonderful time yesterday with her.
We really
So
did, and I bet your
yeah.
conversation with her will be great.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Rachel. I will see
Uh-huh.
you on the beach.
All right, great. Thanks, Tammy.
Okay. Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.